Good evening. Welcome to ITV News Central, tonight's main stories. It was supposed to solve the region's traffic gridlock, but tonight, safety questions about variable speed limits on the M42.
Within a short stretch of motorway, they can vary from 40 to 50 to 60. Motorists become preoccupied with the speed, which detracts from their attention to the road.
The carpet factory, once on the verge of collapse, now taking on more workers.
Where now for Nicholas and Elka? We've the latest from West Brom.
And what is going on in the Midlands this bank holiday weekend?
Good evening. They were introduced to ease congestion around Birmingham, but there are claims tonight that the growing number of speed controls on motorways are causing confusion to drivers and have become a distracting danger.
But the claims are strongly disputed. The Highways Agency says there's evidence that variable speed limits have brought a dramatic fall in accidents. Here's our transport correspondent, Keith Wilkinson.
Breaking the law, drivers using the hard shoulder when the signs say it's closed. But is it the case that people are simply confused about what to do, especially if they're not used to driving along these so-called managed sections of motorway? A quite new concept, now commonplace around Birmingham, but untried in many other parts of the country. A law firm which specialises in motoring matters says from client feedback it is confusing and that can be dangerous.
Within a short stretch of motorway, they can vary from 40 to 50 to 60 and at sometimes even 20. So motorists are continually accelerating and decelerating.
In your opinion, does that make the situation dangerous?
Absolutely. Motorists become preoccupied with the speed, which detracts from their attention to the road.
The Highways Agency say they have no idea why such claims would be made. In fact, they say the statistics prove the opposite. Since 2005, accidents have fallen by more than 55%, and there have been no fatalities. Drivers, they say, do understand the system. Today, though, there were divided opinions among motorists we spoke to.
There's potential to be danger there. I mean, you get people ignore them all the time, undertaking and overtaking.
I think they're brilliant. I think they save lives. Traffic's moving a lot faster.
It can be a hazard for people, like concentrating more on the signs than the roads.
You can go back to 50 and then up to 60, just up and down like a yo-yo.
If you know how to drive on the motorways regularly, I think you'll understand them. If you don't, I can imagine them being quite confusing.
I think they're a good idea. I think they keep the roads safe.
I find them simple. They're really easy to follow. Every now and again you get the awkward one, which is a bit misleading, but other than that, it's fine.
I think they're in place for good reason, and I think they're there not to cause accidents.
It's not the first time lawyers have raised concerns about these road signs, but the Highways Agency say they are doing their job, making the traffic flow more easily. Keith Wilkinson, ITV News.
One of the politicians who had helped to drive forward plans for the proposed high-speed rail link from London to Birmingham when in government has now strongly attacked the idea. Speaking on national radio this morning, the former Labour Chancellor Alistair Darling said the project's benefits were highly contentious and it risked draining money from the railways for 30 years. Earlier this week, the government had defended claims the budget could rise from £50 billion to as much as £80 billion.
My principal concern is if you spend this money on this one railway line, then you will not have the money that we need to spend on maintaining and upgrading existing lines like the East Coast Main Line, the line to Bristol, the commuter lines and so on. And my experience as Transport Secretary is that if you do not spend money on upgrading, improving the track, improving the trains, then the thing will simply eventually start falling apart. We're spending a lot of money on something that still isn't finalised, and I also question whether or not we'd get the gains claimed for it.
New research by the Taxpayers Alliance is predicting a substantial increase in the number of home buyers who'll be forced to pay stamp duty in the Midlands. It claims 70% of West Midlands homes sold in 2012-2013 will be subject to stamp duty by 2018. 1 in 5 will fall into the 3% rate or higher, meaning that home buyers could end up paying thousands more.
Many people are already hit by this unfair homes tax, which makes it more difficult to move home, to move to a new location, or even to downsize. The fact is that rising house prices means that more people are going to be dragged into paying this tax, and even more people are going to be dragged into actually paying higher rates of this tax. So whereas you used to pay 3% only if you owned some of the most expensive properties, the average family home is now going to be hit by a 3% stamp duty.
A carpet firm which was near collapse just 2 years ago today announced a multi-million-pounds investment and new jobs and apprenticeships.
Brinton's makes carpets for hotels, cruise ships and casinos. Much of its business is in America. It was bought by a private equity firm 2 years ago, and it's now being seen as one of the most successful corporate turnarounds in the UK. Our business correspondent Mark Goff reports.
Connor Cole is looking forward to a new future. He's 3 weeks into his apprenticeship at Brinton's Carpets, and over lunch he told me it was a bit different to what he was doing before.
I was actually an apprentice footballer for Kidderminster Harriers for 3 years, so this is a complete change, but very good change. I'm happy with the decision.
And today it looks like a very good choice. Brinton's is investing £5 million to produce photo-style patterns on carpets, a technology it's invented.
We'll be investing in new looms, new HD weave looms, which is Brinton's proprietary technology. £2 million of that will go into our Kidderminster factory, £3 million will go to our Portuguese factory.
The Kidderminster and Telford factories were bought by private equity firm Carlyle 2 years ago. Jobs were lost, but this turnaround is being seen as one of the most successful in the UK, effectively saving Brinton's, which was near collapse.
It certainly had a near-death experience, it's fair to say, and it was a loss-making business. And we're just coming up now to the second anniversary from Carlisle bought the business, and we've had 2 profitable years, and this last year has been significantly more profitable.
And that's enabled them to take more people on, like these apprentices.
Our numbers in the UK have actually grown since the takeover by Carlisle. I think we were just about 500 between Telford and Kidderminster and our sales offices, and now we're up to 530, so about 30 odd jobs have been added.
They're opening offices in Dubai, Shanghai and Moscow. They have big ambitions, like Connor.
I'd like to work my way up in the company, become a chief engineer hopefully in the future. Just got to knuckle down and do well, and then that's where I'm aiming.
He might just do it. Mark Goff, ITV News, Kidderminster.
Good luck, Connor. Within days, a cull of badgers is expected to get underway in Gloucestershire, despite anger from animal rights activists. And those hoping to protest against the cull in Herefordshire have now been stopped by a High Court injunction. But one organisation says it has the solution which could avoid the killing of animals.
The Leicestershire and Rutland Wildlife Trust has begun a fundraising appeal. It needs £30,000 to vaccinate badgers around its nature reserves. Phil Brewster reports.
Early morning in Leicestershire, and preparations are being made to vaccinate a group of badgers against bovine TB. The scheme is part of a selective programme of vaccination of badgers on land owned by the Leicestershire and Rutland Wildlife Trust.
There's no evidence at the moment that we're aware of that badgers have TB in Leicestershire. We're doing this as a precaution so that we can try and sort of head off any future problems.
Overnight, around 9 badgers were caught at various locations in specially laid traps. The animals are quickly injected before being sprayed with markers to show they've had the vaccine. The aim is to have badger populations free of TB within 5 years.
It won't cure the disease if a badger had TB, but it's trying to build up immunity within a set.
It comes as a pilot scheme to cull up to 5,000 badgers is due to get underway shortly in Gloucestershire and Somerset. The government and National Farmers Union say it's needed to help tackle the spread of bovine TB in cattle, which have to be destroyed if they test positive for the disease.
Well, what we know is that culling is the only way that we're going to It's the only way we're getting on top of this terrible disease. We've seen other countries across the world that have suffered from TB have only managed to get on top of it and reduce incidence by tackling the wildlife as well as the cattle. At the moment, we're only dealing with the cattle side.
But opponents say a badger cull is inhumane and ineffective.
The long-term study that was conducted by the government has shown that culling would only make a small contribution to the issue, and in fact there is a high risk that it could actually make the problem worse by dispersing social groups. So if you have infected badgers, they could actually move out into an area that's not currently infected.
The Trust says the only viable long-term solution is a vaccine for cattle. In the meantime, it's looking to raise £30,000 to help pay for a 5-year vaccination programme to protect the badger population and prevent what it says is a scourge of bovine TB. Phil Brewster, ITV News, Leicestershire.
You're watching ITV News in the Central Region. Still to come, Warwickshire's unsung hero, the plasterer who went on to win golf's Open.
And hitting the right notes, looking forward to a musical bank holiday weekend in the Midlands.
And as we head towards the bank holiday weekend, we've got yellow warnings in force for heavy rain, but will it last all 3 days? Well, I'll tell you later in the programme.
Next tonight, Jack Coville-Lowndes lost his mother to cancer when he was just 3 years old. Now, aged 10, he's dedicated much of his time to raising thousands of pounds in her memory.
And this week he's been honoured for his charity work. Jack has won a national award and the prize, a life-sized model of himself made out of Lego. James Webster went with him as he went face to face with his plastic alter ego.
1, 2, 3. Come on.
4'6" with 35,000 bricks. This is part of Jack Coville-Lowndes' prize for winning a nationwide contest to find a young hero.
Just made your wheelbarrow.
10-year-old Jack lives in Wainfleet with his auntie Tamara. Her sister Steph, Jack's mum, was diagnosed with skin cancer when he was just 16 weeks old. Doctors said she'd only live for 6 months, but she survived till he was 3.
We used to play Bob the Builder, and I was Bob and she was Wendy. When we go past the cemetery, we always say hi to her and we sometimes speak to her.
That was your first one.
Jack wanted to raise money in memory of his mum and hoped a fun run at school in June would bring in £300. It topped 3,000.
It was just amazing to come out of the school hall and then see that many people.
Jack did a speech. There wasn't a dry eye in the house. I asked him why he wanted to do it, and he said it was for his mummy because he couldn't remember much about her, and people are always telling him what she was like.
Hi Jack. Hello. And lovely to meet you. Welcome to St Barnabas Hospice. Would you like to come through?
The money will go here, where staff supported Jack's mum when she was ill.
This is one of our side rooms for one of our patients to come in and stay.
When people are at the end of their life, we provide basically a home from home. Well, we're looking at £3,400. Here alone, it's enough to look after one patient for 24 hours of care for 5 days. It's a big amount towards the 3.1 million we have to fundraise every year.
It was this fundraising that inspired Tamara to nominate Jack in Chat magazine's search for a true life hero. Today he's here at Legoland to collect his prize, a life-size model of himself.
He's courageous, he's brave, and he's done something for both his community and for the hospice that helped his mum, and I think that's a remarkable achievement.
She would be so proud. That's what Jack said this morning when I asked him how he thought she would feel. Yeah, she will be bursting with pride.
I was imagining it would be like smaller than me, but it's bigger and it's just amazing.
And when Jack gets home, he's already planning his next event to raise more money for charity. James Webster, ITV News, Windsor.
What a fantastic little boy.
Absolutely, and he just said there his statue's a bit bigger. Don't worry, Jack, you'll grow into it, but you've got to make sure that T-shirt still fits. He needs to keep the stripes, doesn't he?
We'll have to keep buying one in a bigger size.
Oh, great. Well done, Jack, for all that fundraising work you've been doing. Right, time for sport now. Michael Sibbott joins us in the studio. So, Michael, what's going on at West Bromwich Albion? Is Nicholas Anelka, this huge star, don't tell me he's already on his way out of West Brom?
Well, he could well be on his way, Steve, because West Brom manager Steve Clarke has admitted that their marquee summer signing could quit football following the death of his agent. The club say they've given Anelka time to make a decision over his future. He'll play no part in tomorrow's game against Everton. This was just 7 weeks ago. After last season's top scorer Romelu Lukaku finished his loan spell and returned to Chelsea, Steve Clarke needed to replace him and his goals. His answer was one of football's most decorated and expensive strikers. Now, after just one competitive game for West Brom, it looks like he could quit football altogether.
I'm not going to deny that he didn't use that word in the conversations that we had with him, but we've given him time to go away and think about it. The conversation we had the other day was really negative, but like I said, we've given him time to think about it, so I'd like to think that he could play for West Bromwich Albion again.
The striker was very close to his agent Eric Manassi. On his Facebook page last night, Anelka wrote in French, "It is with great sadness that I just learned the death of Mr. Eric Manassi. Eric will leave a great void in our lives. I can't find the words to express my immense sorrow."
Nicholas lost a close friend and an agent over the weekend. Died suddenly. He went to see Richard yesterday and indicated that he wasn't in a good place. I went in, I had a very brief chat with him, and he wasn't in a good place. So the club have decided just to give him a bit of time to go away and think about it.
So Anelka won't feature against Everton, but winger Scott Sinclair could. His move to the Hawthorns was confirmed last night on a season-long loan deal from Manchester City. Elsewhere in the Premier League, Stoke City host Crystal Palace, whilst Aston Villa will play their third game in 8 days against Liverpool. In the Championship, Leicester manager Nigel Pearson turned 50 this week. He'll be hoping for a strong performance against Birmingham tomorrow to go with their impressive collection of early season points.
We are capable of playing more expansive football, and I'm sure that will come in time, but we've got to try and get the balance right between the entertainment and getting the results that we want.
Birmingham's only points this season so far have come on the road, but Lee Clark knows this away trip will be a tough test for his young side.
I know who's been driving home the happiest at 5:30, 6 o'clock on a Saturday evening. Nigel more than me. So I think they're a good side. I think they've got a lot of energy, some good young players. The difference with their young players is they've come from Premier League clubs.
Our other Championship sides are both on the road. Derby are at Yeovil, whilst Forest sit top of the table after just 3 games with maximum points. They face Watford. In League One, Wolves can go top if they beat Crawley at the Molineux tonight. Tomorrow, Coventry play their second home game of the season in Northampton. And in League Two, Chesterfield could also go top with a win over Southend, whilst Cheltenham are still looking for their first win of the season. Some real tasty ties this weekend. Well, cricket now, and Warwickshire's Jonathan Trott fell 10 short of a half-century on day 3 of the 5th and final Ashes test of the summer at the Oval. Trott came to the wicket with the score on 68 and made slow progress. His 40 runs came off 134 balls before he was out LBW off the bowling of Mitchell Starc. Trott reviewed, but the decision stood. His county teammate Ian Bell is currently at the crease. A few moments ago, he was on 19. England 240 for 4. Rugby and Northampton Saints have announced a 13th successive year of profit as the Saints build up to another season on the pitch. Off it, the club have released their annual accounts, and it shows a record turnover up to £13.3 million. They experienced a rise in commercial income and have already announced plans to freeze ticket prices for a 4th consecutive year. And we'll finish with a bit of golfing history. If you didn't know that one of the earliest winners of the Open was from Warwick, you're not alone. Jack Burns is being called Warwick's forgotten hero by a golf teacher and a photographer who've teamed up to make a film about his life. Callum Watkinson has more.
In modern times, to win the Open means international renown and riches beyond most of our wildest dreams. But in 1888, the coveted claret jug was lifted by a workman who mowed the grass at Warwick Golf Club.
Jack Burns was a labourer, a plasterer, wouldn't really be known as a professional golfer as we know professional golfers now. His trade was not golf at all. He was also, we discovered, was a greenkeeper stroke professional golfer, which is unheard of nowadays.
Jack won by a whisker, beating the legendary Ben Sayers by just one shot. Quite a feat in the days before technology made the game easier, according to the man who now teaches on the greens Jack once tended.
Modern day golf clubs are much easier to use now. They're made of carbon fibre and titanium. The clubs that Jack used to play with were made of hickory and persimmon heads, really difficult golf clubs to use.
His film about Jack's life has won first prize in the Warwick Rocks Food and Film Festival and will be screened in the Market Square on Sunday night.
What makes Jack stand out from the others is what happened in October 1888.
The local photographer who researched and wrote it probably now knows more about Warwick's unsung hero than anyone else in town.
It's a shame that clearly he felt he couldn't pursue his passion of golf and had to go back, well, to work on the railways. He was just a normal guy, and on his death certificate he was listed as a plasterer still. Perhaps we could have a little campaign to get a little blue plaque on the house he lived in.
They will have to find somewhere else to hang it though. The house where Jack lived, just yards from the course where he putted and pruned, is gone. Victory makes today's Open winners into millionaires. Jack walked away with a purse of £8. In today's money, that would barely be enough for a decent set of clubs. Callum Watkinson, ITV News, Warwick.
Great bit of sporting history there. And that's all the sport.
That is incredible. £8 he got back then. A set of golf clubs. So about 500 quid's worth now, £1,000.
They get millions now.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. He needed some of that sponsorship or something. Listen, I've got to ask you about Nicholas Anelka because it was a big story that evolved as we were going on air yesterday. Today it looks a bit clearer. So his friend, the agent, has died, and now we just don't know if he'll ever come back, I guess, to football.
Well, it's sad, isn't it, for both Nicholas Anelka and West Brom fans. You know, Anelka had been over in China, he's come back to play in the Premier League, and he was probably hoping for one last big hurrah in his career. He's obviously in a difficult place at the moment, but let's hope he can come back because he's got the potential to be a real match winner for West Brom this season.
And speaking of West Brom, their rivals up the road, Wolves, big match tonight against Crawley. And then go top of the table, this one.
They can go top, yeah. They won 4-0, I think, last week. And so this is a real chance for them to get a real foothold on League One and show why they're the biggest club in that league.
Superb. Michael, thank you very much.
Thank you. Fingers crossed for Wolves. The ITV News continues with the national and international stories at 6:30. Here's a look at what's happening with Natasha Kaplinski.
Britain blames a chemical attack by President Assad for the Syrian massacre. As we obtain harrowing evidence of the aftermath, Foreign Secretary William Hague says it is the only plausible explanation for deaths of hundreds of men, women and children. Dave Lee Travis appears in court charged with sex offences spanning 30 years. 6 major furniture and carpet retailers accused of misleading customers with fake prices. And tripping the light fantastic, why snails move a little faster than we thought. Find out more with Alistair Stewart and me at 6:30.
Now then, are you ready for the bank holiday weekend?
Always.
It's the last one till Christmas, so you better make the most of it. And there is plenty going on across the Midlands, including a music festival, which may only be 3 years old, but it's already attracting some pretty impressive acts.
It doesn't have the glamour of Glastonbury, if you can call that glamour, or the reputation of Reading. But Judge Stock is bigger than ever this year as it moves to a new home. Andy Bevan watched the final preparations.
The boys from Blue have travelled the world, but this weekend they'll be performing in a field in West Bromwich for Judge Stock 2013. Now in its 9th year, the 3-day festival is, as always, a charity event, with proceeds going to Macmillan Cancer and the Mayor of Sandwell's charities. It's also being held in memory of Simon Turton, a local man who died from a brain tumour in 2011. He was a great friend of Judge Stock's organiser. For the last 4 years, the festival has been held indoors at West Bromwich's ill-fated public building, But with that now closing down, the show must go on elsewhere.
Grew in size and looked for bigger grounds. Approached by the council to work with them. So that's what we're doing in partnership with them this year. And a lot bigger names on this year as well.
Headlining this year are one-time Fame Academy finalist Lamar and Birmingham indie boys The Twang. Also performing Stafford-born teen rocker Mitchell Ems, who's getting used to big stages after singing to millions on the TV talent show The Voice.
We're going to be doing mainly kind of original stuff, but we're going to throw in a few things that I did on The Voice as well, and some good covers and things, so it's going to be really good fun.
Judgestock shares its new home at Sandwell Park Farm with the Sandwell Show, an annual gathering of fairground rides, food stalls, flower shows and all-round family fun.
I'm hoping that that's going to make a big difference, and we're going to get lots and lots of young people, as well as the children and the families. We're hoping that this will go huge now and continue for many years to come.
Judgestock has already raised over £100,000 for Macmillan Cancer, and they're hoping the expected 15,000 plus visitors between tomorrow and Monday will dig deep to boost that total even higher. Andy Bevan, ITV News.
Well, that looks pretty good, doesn't it?
But you've even heard of them, haven't you?
I know, yes, which is perfect for my age group. So what else can you get up to in the Midlands? In fact, another music I'm quite into, the folk music, and the Shrewsbury Folk Festival is in its 7th year and has quickly become one of the most important folk music events in the country. That gets underway tonight at the West Midlands Showground and runs until, Bank Holiday Monday.
Obviously an awful lot of music, because we have 5 sound stages here with a whole cross-section of music, and people don't really always recognise what folk music is about. It can include rock, and will include rock this weekend. It will include world music and anything from reggae to pop.
Well, here's something really quite different. If you're in Leicestershire, you might want to head for the woods. The National Park's wood carvers will be at Beacon Hill Country Park. Chainsaws at the ready, creating intricate carvings from giant trunks of wood.
There's masterclasses of wood turning, there's wood logging, there's timber to buy for those who are interested in it. There's obviously myself and 3 other chainsaw carvers making an enormous noise, and hopefully some very big impressive sculptures. There's food courts, the special forest foods, and there's also some interesting things and free events for the kids to do. So it's a great event.
And if you fancy sampling the Midlands Asian culture this weekend, you've got a choice of destinations. Eid Mellah celebrations are taking place in both Leicester and Birmingham. There'll be food, sport, art and entertainment, including live music from stars of the Asian music scene. In Leicester, the market will be transformed into an Indian bazaar. And the festival's to celebrate the end of Ramadan, the holy month of fasting. And I guess if you've been fasting, you'll be pretty keen to get in there and get some of that food.
There are plenty more ideas for the long break on our website as well. Just go to itv.com/central for all of those. And of course, the bank holiday travel updates. That's the downside, isn't it?
Yes,
the
travel updates and possibly the weather updates. Let's get them, shall we, from James Wright.
I can't wait to get some sunshine.
Me too. I'm sick of all these showers.
Good evening. We've had some showers moving in from the west, and once they sit across us, they're going to stick around for quite a while and turn rather heavy and thundery. We've got this cold front making its way across the UK, coming up against the very warm air that's blown up across France. It looks as though the eastern side of the West Midlands seeing the worst of these showers, and that's why there is a yellow warning enforced by the Met Office that's going to kick in overnight but last through pretty much the whole of tomorrow too. It's going to be a mild and muggy night, 15 degrees in many places, a little bit cooler out towards the west. If you get stuck under one of these showers, it could be rather heavy and thundery, even some torrential downpours in there. And it looks as though that's going to be the case for much of the day tomorrow. Some brightness out towards the west, but it's this area of very showery rain that we need to keep an eye on. We could see up to 30 millimetres falling in just an hour, up to 2 inches of rain falling in 3 hours. And if that's the case, well, we could see some localised flooding, partly because the ground is so dry. A cooler day tomorrow, highs of 19 degrees Celsius, but still rather muggy. But the good news is things settle down for the rest of the bank holiday weekend. Sunny spells and highs of 22 degrees Celsius. Bye-bye.
Flybe, sponsors of ITV Central Weather.
Of course, inevitable, because I was planning a long walk tomorrow in the woods, that it would rain.
Get your cagoule out.
Yes. That is just about it from us. It's the national and international news coming up next.
I'll be here tomorrow evening with an early evening update. But until then, have a lovely weekend. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.